This is the biggest scandal in gaming history. It's so massive, it completely overshadowed GTA 6 pre-orders. People are canceling accounts, destroying consoles, protesting, and even politicians and governments are suing and fining companies billions of dollars. The scandal? Sony is discontinuing physical media, though games released before 2028 won't be affected. Yes, that information is 100% accurate according to official announcements. But who cares about official statements? Ever since Sony dropped this news, most people have been chasing endless rumors, creating a massive snowball of misinformation. I'm not here to defend Sony's plans for monopoly and market control or any of its competitors, for that matter. Honestly, if we were pointing fingers at the most questionable decisions in gaming, we'd be talking about Nintendo for hours. Seriously, it's mind-blowing how Nintendo goes completely against all expectations and somehow pulls it off. They re-release a 40-year-old game at twice the original price and still sell millions. Congratulations, Nintendo! You prove that the rules of the universe simply don't apply to you. But today isn't the day to snap our fingers and risk a copyright lawsuit. Today is the day to debunk this whirlwind of rumors and headlines and figure out what's actually true about the future of physical media and gaming. Is there a way to avoid losing your games? Is there an alternative? Will the world be left without games starting in 2028? Let's find out. From here on out, you'll understand why Sony just triggered the biggest gaming scandal of the century. Let me dissect Sid Schumann's official statement over on the PlayStation blog. He made a point to clarify that this guillotine is aimed specifically at new releases. Discontinuing disc manufacturing will only affect unreleased titles dropping from January 2028 onward, meaning every game released in physical format before that date remains completely untouched. Older games on disc needing retail restocks can still get fresh factory copies as usual. That's why Sony is sitting there with a straight face, completely unbothered by their own decision. This gradual transition is classic anesthesia before surgery. It softens the initial market shock, soothes emotional collectors, keeps physical retail profiting off legacy hits, and neatly paves the way for a 100% digital future where manufacturing and logistics costs simply cease to exist. If you want the real motive, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier already exposed the behind-the-scenes reality. Sony won't back down an inch because the decision is purely financial. Digital profit margins are overwhelming, and the Japanese giant fully anticipated fan outrage. Their strategy? Stay cold as ice and ride out the storm. Think about the profit math, the $70 rule. When Sony sells a $70 physical disc, they have to pay retailers, plastic cases, packaging, distribution. In the end, they keep about $45.50. Now, if you click rent, oops, my bad, they still insist on calling it buy on the PSN, even though everyone knows we don't actually own the product after purchasing it. If you click buy, they eliminate the middleman and swallow the full $70. That's a 54% higher net gain. And it's not just Sony setting off fireworks. Partner studios like EA and Ubisoft, who used to pocket around $35 per disc, now bag $49 in digital sales, a 40% margin bump. That's why Sony enjoys full backing from the entire industry. And how do they handle the public? Silence. Executive leadership is betting everything on brand loyalty, believing the sheer weight of a God of War or Spider-Man will force everyone to accept digital. The internal order is simple. Plug your ears until the community stops crying. Then we enter those wonderful corporate coincidences. You know that story about former Sony shareholders plotting a mass stock sell-off using the announcement as a pretext? Officially, it's speculative rumor, but the timing is hilarious, to say the least. On July 3rd, 2026, just 2 days after the announcement declaring the death of physical media, Sony CEO Hiroki Totoki dumped roughly 56% of his personal shares, pocketing a casual $4.7 million. Chairman Kenichiro Yoshida turned around and sold $9 million worth of shares on the exact same day. And Wall Street, far from panicking, they applauded. Sony shares jumped nearly 7% because investors love cost-cutting. The entire controversy stems from the absence of a pre-scheduled SEC 10b5-1 trading plan for these transactions, which is remarkably sketchy for executives of that stature. Yet, so far, zero insider trading investigations. What was Sony's official explanation for these sales? None. Total corporate radio silence. Neither Totoki nor Yoshida uttered a peep about their personal motivations. And mega corporations rarely offer explanations unless a subpoena lands on their desk. SEC filings indicate everything was technically legal and disclosed. Some technical defenses even argue that automated divestment plans did exist for other group executives to avoid conflicts of interest. The financial market simply sees this as profit-taking. These guys spotted a post-announcement stock surge and cashed out. After all, with Sony expanding in the US and executing a $3 billion stock buyback, the suits just rode the wave. But while executives cash out, the community petitions. The Don't Kill the Disc campaign on change.org, launched by PMP Games CEO Jade Pierce, force, shattered 100,000 signatures in less than a week, and has surpassed 220,000. It generated explosive engagement, with brands like KFC, Domino's, IGN, and Eurogamer riding the wave. The supreme irony. Protesters resurrected Sony's infamous 2013 E3 viral video, where they mocked Xbox, promising that on PlayStation, you could always lend and keep your physical games forever. The legal arguments raised by gamers are spot on. Digital games aren't purchases. They're temporary license rentals that Sony can revoke whenever they feel like it. Then there's PSN price monopolization, the illegal destruction of the used games market, goodbye, first sale doctrine, the death of game preservation, and of course, the hit to thousands of local retail jobs. And the community didn't stop at petitions. Hashtag cancel PS Plus and hashtag boycott PSN flooded Reddit. Users initiated a domino effect, canceling annual subscriptions across essential, extra, and deluxe tiers. The target was precise. PS Plus recurring revenue is Sony's Achilles heel. The triggers? The death of sharing disc copies with friends, the fresh trauma of Sony purging Discovery movies from user accounts proving you own nothing, and, naturally, lingering fury over sky-high subscription price hikes. The result? A sizable chunk of players threatening a mass exodus to PC or Switch, along with a noticeable dip in daily multiplayer engagement. But the legal rabbit hole goes much deeper. In the Netherlands, a $457 million class action lawsuit titled Fair PlayStation erupted, representing 1.7 million gamers led by the Stichting Massageheid and Consument Foundation. The lawsuit targets the notorious 30% Sony tax and anti-competitive monopoly practices. The prosecution's brilliant angle, killing physical discs, proved their case completely. The foundation's chair stated physical media was consumers' last escape hatch from inflated digital store prices, where Dutch gamers pay up to 47% more. And here lies Sony's bizarre self-inflicted wound. Historically, their legal shield against monopoly claims was stating, "We aren't a monopoly. Players can buy physical discs at any retailer." By killing the discs, Sony obliterated their own legal defense. Bravo to everyone involved. Truly spectacular work.
Dad, I got your voucher.
Out! And it doesn't stop there. In the US, Sony got slapped with a California lawsuit for banning third-party retailers from selling digital game codes since 2019, locking everyone into the PS Store. They attempted a $7.85 million settlement. The comedic twist? Sony tried paying it out in PSN store credits. Seriously? That's like saying, sorry for forcing everyone to use only the PSN. Here's $8 million that's only valid inside the PSN. Sony's executive board should try stand-up comedy. I can't even imagine the dark humor that would come out of that. Oh, wait, we're the punchline to them. The federal judge obviously threw out that joke and demanded a proper cash settlement, with a hearing scheduled for October 2026, affecting 4.4 million consumers. Meanwhile, in the UK, things are getting real. A £1.97 lawsuit led by consumer advocate Alex Neil. They accuse Sony of price gouging while facing zero retail competition. Sony claims it's preposterous and that plaintiffs want a free ride on their infrastructure, but the precedent is terrible. Apple was hit with an identical £1.5 billion penalty for the exact same behavior with the App Store. In Brazil, consumer protection agency Procon SP warned that despite business freedoms, consumer protection laws still apply. If you buy digital, you must have the same legal ownership guarantees as physical media. Lawmakers have even pressed consumer protection bodies to investigate predatory clauses in Sony's terms of service, the ones allowing them to remove games without prior notice. Legislative proposals tied to the Stop Killing Games movement are demanding mandatory server support for at least 2 years post-launch and, believe it or not, a mandatory permanent offline mode if a company decides to kill game servers. Over in the EU, Commissioner Michael McGrath laid out the harsh reality. They're largely powerless. Commercial and contractual freedom protects the corporate strategy. The Citizens Initiative motion against ending game ownership slammed directly into EU intellectual property laws, which safeguard corporations. The most they'll do is draft a voluntary code of conduct, which accomplishes practically nothing. The only genuine threat Sony faces in Europe is the Digital Markets Act, DMA. If PlayStation transforms into a 100% closed digital ecosystem, the EU could very well force Sony to open the PS5 and PS6 to competing storefronts, exactly like they did with Apple and the iPhone. I can only imagine the person who pitched killing physical discs. Hey team, let's eliminate physical media. The profit margins will be insane. What if players hate it? They're a vocal minority. Where will they go? Switch to Xbox and lose our exclusives. Xbox announced the death of physical media on their side too. Yeah, Yeah, I don't think they anticipated this level of outrage. How did Sony react to this PR nightmare? They rolled out a classic smokescreen backed by cash. They moved up their massive summer sale, slashing prices up to 90% across over 6,300 deals and offering early access to PS Plus subscribers. The psychological playbook is transparent. Build digital reliance, flood virtual libraries so you forget discs ever existed, and stem the tide of subscription cancellations. They wanted to pivot headlines from lawsuits to must-play games for $10. The strategy partially worked. Players bought games, but flooded PlayStation blog comments demanding fair regional pricing, pointing out that paying less for something you don't own is still a terrible deal. In the next video, we'll look at what the community has been up to beyond protests and snarky comments. I guarantee you'll be surprised. For now, leave a like and share this video with anyone who's completely lost regarding this clown show Sony created. In the meantime, I'm going to go check out how the new hypervisor technique is making Crimson Desert, well, let's just say more optimized than the de novo version.